Reshma Saujani, who is running for United States Congress in the 14th Congressional District here in New York City. Welcome to the program, and tell us about your campaign and why you're running for Congress.
Sure. People always say, why in the world would you ever want to run for Congress? And the answer has always been very simple. My parents. I'm the first generation daughter of political refugees, and my parents were forced to flee Uganda in 1973 when Idi Amin began persecuting the Indian community. My father was watching television one day when Idi Amin came on and said, you have 90 days to leave the country. And at first my father said he just left. I mean, he was born in Uganda, my mother was born in Uganda, my grandparents were born in Uganda, and the Indians were really the engine of the economy there. But soon, every day, he'd open up the paper and it'd say, if you were here after the 90-day deadline, you'd be shot on spot. So my father started packing, and they applied to several countries for refugee status, but the United States was the only one that allowed them to enter. So in January of 1973, they boarded a plane to Chicago and built a life for themselves. And every day, my father would tell me about the importance of getting involved in the political process, because if you don't, your rights can be taken away in a moment's notice. And ironically, a month ago, I got to thank the man that literally saved my parents' lives. One man stood up in the U.S. House of Representatives and argued for these 1,000 refugees because he believed it was the right thing to do. That man was Ed Koch. That seat was this seat, the 14th District, and 37 years later, I'm running for the seat that literally saved my parents' lives.
I know you visited Israel, you've heard about the security issues there firsthand on the ground. What is your impression of Barack Obama's approach to the Middle East peace process?
I've been, I'm disappointed with his position on settlements. I did go to Israel recently, and I can't wait to go there again.
Have you seen the settlements?
Yes, I was able to visit Efrath, Efrath is essentially a suburb of Jerusalem, and we met some wonderful people there, and we were able to see a lot of the settlements that were in and around the West Bank. It's funny, I went to Israel for a week and I thought it was going to be plenty of time, but it wasn't long enough. And I just had the most incredible experience there. I felt like I was at home. And one of the reasons why I had originally gone to Israel was to learn about entrepreneurship and innovation. I had read Startup Nation and was really moved by the developments that Israel was making in encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship. And I think that there's a lot that we can actually learn here in the United States from what Israel has actually been successful at, because they've been able to fundamentally affect the global chain in a way that the United States is still trying to do. But while I was there, I also was able to kind of visit Jerusalem. And it was just a moving experience because you have, Israelis and Arabs, living peacefully with one another. And you can't split Jerusalem.
The Prime Minister of Israel is coming to the United States to meet with the President. What do you think they should be talking about? What should come out of that meeting?
I think that, what they should be talking about is, how do we have peace in the Middle East? How do we have, how does every Jewish mother feel like she can take her baby for a walk in the stroller, have a cup of coffee outside, live a normal, peaceful life? Because when I was in Israel, that's what everybody wants, and that's what we should be working towards.
You think Israel should be able to retain the settlements?
I think that the current plan that Netanyahu has put forward is something that I would support.
Give us an outline of the district itself, the 14th district. What kind of people are living there? What kind of district it is in terms of the demographics, in terms of the economy, the economics of it.
I always say that I feel like I'm running in 6 different city council districts. So it's, about 106th Street, which is, Central Park, all the way down to the Lower East Side, and it includes Roosevelt Island, Astoria, Queens, and Long Island City. So from both a demographic and a socioeconomic point of view, it's incredibly diverse. And there's different issues that are important to different parts of the district. But the 3 things I think that everybody feels very passionately about are jobs and the economy. They want to see people getting back to work. I can't tell you how many times parents have said to me, my child just graduated, whether it's from high school or it's college, and they've sent out 100 resumes and they can't find a job. What are we doing to get our kids back to work and to make sure that the next generation of Americans isn't sitting on their hands and we don't have a brain drain? And the second thing that people feel very passionately about is education. Making sure that our schools are funded, making sure we're preparing our kids for the 21st century, and that we're teaching them math, science, and engineering, that every child goes, has gym class and art class, that we're empowering our teachers. I went to public schools my whole life. I stood on the shoulders of teachers who let me see the world. We need to make sure that we're putting in money and investment into teacher training. And the third thing I think people feel very passionately about is, immigration reform. And, the last thing I want to mention again, and it really, this is one of the biggest points of distinction between me and my opponent is, the influence of special interests. Carolyn Maloney, compared to, her other congressional colleagues, takes a significant amount from corporate PACs. And I can't tell you the damage that it has done on so many of these issues that we care about, the prevalence of special interests, the fact that, elected officials aren't responsible, aren't, held accountable to you and I. I'm not a professional politician. I haven't run from one office to the next office to the next office. I know what it's like to get up every single day and go to work on a budget, figure out how to create jobs, think about business and the economy and how to get people back working again. And that's the thing that people care so much about. The second thing is I've been a community activist essentially my whole life. One of the reasons why we've been able to really build this grassroots campaign is that I've been organizing in New York for almost a decade. We've been activating disenfranchised voters, from disenfranchised communities and getting them back engaged in the political process. People right now are angry with the status quo. They feel like the political establishment isn't listening to them because it's not listening to them. And, political outsiders like me are now kicking open the door and letting our voices be heard. And people all around this country are looking at this race and raising their hand and saying, you know what, I can run now too. And that is so critical and so important for our democracy.
Coming from an immigrant family, how do you feel about what many see as a more a backlash against immigration in this country, as we see in Arizona and possibly other states?
I'm incredibly disappointed by it. That bill in Arizona was written in Washington, D.C., and it can happen everywhere. And I really believe that New Yorkers, being the city of diversity, we need to stand up and fight and make sure that what happened in Arizona never happens here again. I believe that we have to pass the DREAM Act immediately. I also believe that we can't fix our broken immigration system, a broken economy and a broken immigration system. I've always said that anybody who gets their degree in math, science, and engineering should get a green card stamped to their diploma. It makes no sense that we let them leave and go to India and China and create jobs there. From the very beginning when we launched our campaign, we've been advocating for a startup visa. I believe that foreign nationals who have a business plan on how to get New Yorkers or anybody else back to work should be allowed to come to this country and put that plan into action.
What should we do with people who are here illegally?
I think that we need to have a fair pathway to citizenship, and that people need to, potentially, pay taxes, actually, report their status in being here, and start paying taxes. I can't, I've met so many principals who say to me, I have these incredible kids who work so hard. And then when they get to their last year in school before they're about to go to college, I say, well, you're applying to college, aren't you? And they say, no, I'm not. And they find out that they were brought here illegally when they were 1 or 2 years old. And they want to have a job. They want to pay taxes. They want to be a strong member of society, and we need to give them the opportunity to do so.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure discussing the issues with
Take
you.
care.
Good luck in the campaign.
I appreciate that. Take care.